Hello, everybody. It's document 265, Andrew Colborn versus Netflix. Declaration of Andrew Colborn. Andrew Colborn, pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1746, hereby declare, and he penciled it in his own little verbiage. I understand that in a letter to my attorneys dated July 8th, 2022, counsel for Netflix Incorporated proposed a 63 discrete factual stipulations in order to streamline questioning for my deposition, scheduled to begin on July 21st, and that the letter is attached here to Exhibit A. B. I understand that my counsel responded to the letter by email on July 20th, 2022, and that email and its attachment are attached here to Exhibit B. Now, in reliance to Netflix counsel's representation that they will use my admission of certain facts to streamline my deposition, I hereby make the following admissions, as well as some additional factual affirmance. I understand that defendants in this case do not stipulate additional factual affirmance. To avoid confusion, I have maintained the numbering scheme used in Netflix July 8th letter. Anything marked as intentionally left blank is so marked because, at this juncture, I do not agree to stipulation proposed by Netflix. 1 through 9 are blank. 10. I wrote a statement in September 2003 regarding a telephone call that I received in or around 95. He penciled in 1994 or 95. While I was corrections officer in Manitowoc County Jail, the statement was provided at the Sheriff Kenneth Peterson, who told me that he would put the statement in the safe. Shortly thereafter, the statement was turned over to the investigation in the state of Wisconsin. 11 and 12 are blank. 11 blank. 12, in response to the examination in the criminal trial of Stephen Avery, I acknowledge that the trial was the first time I had felt my integrity as a law enforcement officer had been questioned. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 is, I believe that Jerome Buting has damaged my reputation in out-of-court statements about me that were made after the release of Making a Murderer. At one point, I wanted to sue Mr. Buting for defamation. I believe that Dean Strang has damaged my reputation in and out-of-court statements about me that were made after releasing and Making a Murderer. At one point, I wanted to sue Mr. Strang for defamation. I believe, from the Post-Crescent journalist John Farrick has damaged my reputation. At one point, I wanted to sue Mr. Farrick for defamation. I have not watched Making a Murderer in its entirety. Well, Andrew Colborn, in your previous statements, even your attorney, Michael Griesbach, stated that you'd never watched Making a Murderer ever. I have no portion of episode 8. I have not watched no portion of episode 9. I have not watched no portion of episode 10, to my knowledge and recollection. I am voluntarily participating in this documentary, tentatively called Convicting a Murderer, which is not yet to be released to the public. No person I have identified in response to the Crow Media's LLC first set of interrogatories, interrogatory number 10, has ever told me that the Making a Murderer caused the person to think less of me, but some people identified in the response have treated me differently since the release of the series. Some members of the law enforcement community supported me after the release of Making a Murderer, but some did not. Some members of my faith community supported me after the release of Making a Murderer, but some did not. Attention to the left back. I voluntarily retired from the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department in 2018. I had a retirement party when retiring from Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department in 2018. Upon announcing my retirement, I received supportive calls from some people. Since my retirement, I decided to return to my workforce to be able to find new employment. I filed a divorce from my now ex-wife, Barb Colborn, in March 2021. My divorce from Ms. Colborn was finalized in February 2022. For the purpose of this case, I have agreed not to assert that Making a Murderer caused my divorce. I have a romantic relationship with Jody Maurer prior to the divorce of Mr. Colborn. I moved out of the residence that I shared with Ms. Colborn in January 2021. I moved back into the residence in March 2021. I began living with Ms. Maurer at a shared residence in April 2021. Making a Murderer did not cause Ms. Maurer to avoid romantic involvement with me. My relationship with Ms. Maurer harmed my relationship with my ex-wife, Ms. Colborn. My relationship with Ms. Maurer also harmed my relationship with my adult children. I declare under penalty of perjury that the laws of the United States of America that the foregoing is true and is correct. executed on July 21st, 2022. And now we have a proposed stipulation ahead of Plaintiff Colborn's deposition. Dear counsel, in light of Judge Lubig's strong suggestion at the July 7th hearing for the parties to work together to streamline Plaintiff and Colborn's deposition, we propose that the following stipulations. Please let us know on Friday, July 15th, whether Mr. Colborn will stipulate to the facts so that we have time to finalize our questions and exhibits for Mr. Colborn's July 21st deposition. If Mr. Colborn is not willing to stipulate any fact below, we will require time as to the deposition to question him about the fact. If we try to end the deposition before the defendants complete their examination, and the defendants are required to renew their motion for additional deposition time, we will provide a copy of the letter to the court along with other relevant materials. Plaintiff Andrew Colborn has no evidence that the Netflix employee attended any portion of the proceeding civil criminal involving Stephen Avery. Mr. Colborn has no evidence the Netflix employee has been in Manitowoc County, Wisconsin. Mr. Colborn has no evidence that Netflix employee ever spoke to anyone who appears in American Murderer. Mr. Colborn has no evidence that any Netflix employee ever received or read a transcript from the proceeding, civil or criminal, involving Mr. Avery. Mr. Colborn has no evidence that the Netflix employee ever received or watched the raw footage of proceedings, civil or criminal, involving Mr. Avery. Mr. Colborn has no evidence that the Netflix employee ever received or watched other raw footage using filmmakers in creating Making a Murderer. At trial, Mr. Avery for the murder of Teresa Halbach, a central part of Mr. Avery's defense was that law enforcement, including Mr. Colborn, planted evidence to frame him. Hereafter, the frame-up theory. One part of the frame-up theory put forth by the defense in Mr. Avery's trial was that Mr. Colborn was looking directly at Ms. Halbach's vehicle when she made a November 3rd, 2005 call to dispatch. A second part of the frame-up theory put forth by the defense in Mr. Avery's trial was that Mr. Colborn was involved in planting the key to Ms. Halbach's vehicle, Mr. Avery's bedroom. Colborn wrote a report in 2003 regarding a telephone call received on 1995. This is just things that were left out that he didn't want to answer or correct. Mr. Colborn felt wrong by the time frame-up theory report put forth by the defense at Mr. Avery's trial. Mr. Colborn felt that the frame-up theory put forth the defense trial questioned his integrity. So, Mr. Colborn believes Jerome Buning damaged his reputation. At one point, Mr. Colborn wanted to sue Buning, defamation. At one point, Mr. Colborn wanted to sue Dean Strang. And then Farrick, Mr. Colborn believes Kathleen Zellner has damaged his reputation. At one point, Mr. Colborn wanted to sue Miss Zellner for defamation. Y'all hear that, folks? An article by Mr. Farrick prompted a lot of death threats to be directed at Mr. Colborn. Mr. Colborn's statement during an interview with third-party filmmakers that he did not watch one single second of Making a Murder was untrue. Mr. Colborn has not watched Making a Murder in its entirety. Mr. Colborn watched no portion of episode 1. Mr. Colborn has watched no portion of episode 2. Mr. Colborn has watched no portion of episode 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Mr. Colborn volunteered to participate in a documentary tentatively called Convicted of Murder, which was not yet released to the public. Convicted of Murder is meant to serve as a rebuttal to Making a Murder. Mr. Colborn entered into an exclusivity agreement with the producers for Convicting a Murderer. Mr. Colborn exclusively agreed for Convicting a Murderer, at least his understanding that an agreement. He caused him to decline opportunities to publicly defend his reputation. Brandon Schuler, one of the producers of Convicting a Murderer, has told Mr. Colborn that the people making it are pro-law enforcement, that it will make Mr. Avery look guilty as fuck, and this will humanize the hell out of Mr. Colborn. Ms. Schuler's disclosure of the information set forth in stipulation number 42 has not caused Mr. Colborn to withdraw his corroboration with the Convicted of Murder. No person identified Mr. Colborn's response to Crow Media's LLC first set of interrogatories, target number 10, has ever told him that Making a Murder caused a person to think less of him. Mr. Colborn's law enforcement community supported him after the release of Making a Murder. Mr. Colborn's faith community supported him after the recent murder. No one has confronted Mr. Colborn as a result of Making a Murder. Mr. Colborn voluntarily retired in 2018. In 2016, Mr. Colborn was already preparing to retire from the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office no more than 3 years. Mr. Colborn had a retirement party. Upon announcing his retirement, Mr. Colborn received supportive calls from dozens of people. Since his retirement, Mr. Colborn decided to return to the workforce and was able to find new employment. Mr. Colborn has lost income due to making a murder. Mr. Colborn filed for divorce from his now ex-wife Barb Colborn in March 2021. Mr. Colborn's divorce from Ms. Colborn was finalized in February 2022. Making murder did not cause Ms. Colborn's divorce. Mr. Colborn had an affair with Jody Maurer while married to Ms. Colborn. After filing the divorce, Mr. Colborn moved out of the residence he shared with Ms. Colborn. Mr. Colborn immediately began living with Ms. Maurer as a shared residence. Sorry. Making a murder did not cause Ms. Maurer to avoid romantic entanglement with Mr. Colborn. Mr. Colborn identified irreparably harmed his relationship with his ex-wife, Ms. Colborn. Mr. Colborn infinitely also harmed his relationship with his adult children. 63. Rifts within the immediate family have caused Mr. Colborn anxiety and distress. Well, that sounds like they were based on his own actions. And then we have the email. Proof, proposed stipulations. Okay. In reliance on our representation that you will be proposed stipulations as streamline your deposition questioning Mr. Colborn, I am attaching a document list of those of the proposed stipulations that Mr. Colborn will agree to enter into, reference by paragraph number and initial of correspondence for signing, blah 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 blah. And this is just another, just like the beginning part where we watched him scribble in little things. So, yeah, this is document 265, filed today, 9/7/2022. See y'all next time. It's getting quite interesting, I do believe. He wanted to sue Zellner and Ferrick and Buting and Strang. So why did he settle on Making a Murder and Netflix? Strange.